She spent months begging police to stop a stalker. She documented everything. She did exactly what victims are told to do. And yet the most terrifying truth was this. The stalker never broke in. Because he already lived there. On the morning of December 14, 2023, Kristil Krug woke up believing she was still fighting for control of her life. The past 3 months had drained her. Sleepless nights. Constant fear. The feeling of being watched even when she was alone. Still, she followed her routine. She took her younger children to school. She returned home. She sent her husband a quick text at 8:56 a.m., asking him to pick up their daughter later because she had a meeting with police. It was an ordinary message, written without urgency. No one realized it was already too late. When hours passed with no reply, concern began creeping in. Calls went unanswered. Messages weren't read. By noon, panic took over. A welfare check was requested. Officers arrived expecting something minor, maybe a misunderstanding. But when one officer pulled his vehicle close to the garage and climbed high enough to peer through the narrow window, his body froze. Kristil was on the floor. She wasn't moving, she was bleeding, and the injuries didn't look accidental. Police forced entry. Paramedics rushed in, but the scene spoke for itself. A head wound, signs of violence, a struggle that didn't match the story of a simple fall. Within minutes, Kristil Krug was pronounced gone. A mother of 3, a daughter, a woman who had spent months warning that something terrible was coming. As first responders worked, her mother arrived, walking up the driveway just as the garage door opened. One glance was enough. She knew. When Kristil's husband Dan arrived shortly after, his reaction appeared immediate and overwhelming. He collapsed. He screamed. He cried uncontrollably. To everyone watching, it looked like the raw grief of a man who had just lost everything. At that moment, no one questioned him. But this tragedy hadn't begun that morning. It had been building quietly, methodically, long before anyone realized what was really happening. Weeks earlier, Kristil had walked into the police department carrying a spreadsheet, calm but exhausted, focused but afraid. She explained that someone was stalking her, texting her, harassing her, following her movements. At first, the messages were strange, almost confusing. Then they became explicit, degrading, threatening. Men she didn't know began contacting her, sending disturbing photos. She soon discovered why. Someone had posted classified ads using her name and phone number, inviting strangers to harass her. It wasn't random. It was deliberate, targeted, designed to humiliate and destabilize her. And whoever was doing it didn't just know her number. They knew her life. The threats escalated again when she received a photo of her husband taken at his workplace without his knowledge. The message that came with it hinted at danger, suggested accidents, suggested consequences. Suddenly, the fear wasn't theoretical. Someone was close enough to watch them. Kristil did everything she could. She documented every message, every call, every encounter. She hired a private investigator. She worked with police. She installed security cameras, changed locks, altered routines. She even purchased a firearm, not because she wanted one, but because she felt she had no other way to protect her family. She believed the person responsible was an ex-boyfriend from decades earlier, someone who had struggled to accept the end of their relationship, someone who had reached out repeatedly over the years. The messages fit that narrative. The obsession made sense. Police believed it too, at least at first. But the man was hard to find, constantly moving, slipping through cracks. Meanwhile, the pressure inside Kristil's home was growing unbearable. Fear turned into exhaustion. Exhaustion turned into tension. Her marriage began to fracture under the weight of constant stress. Kristil confided in her parents that she was considering divorce. She told detectives she believed someone was going to end up dead. She wasn't exaggerating. She was describing what she felt coming. By November, the messages became darker, more direct, less disguised. One message suggested her husband wouldn't come home. Another implied they were meant to be together. Kristil said out loud what she had been thinking privately for weeks. This person would never stop. She was right. The last security footage from the home showed nothing alarming. Just a woman, living her life, taking children to school, coming home, saying goodbye to her husband. No visible danger, no warning signs, just normal moments ticking away, until everything ended. After the murder, investigators moved quickly to track down the suspected ex. When they found him in another state, the case began unraveling in an unexpected way. He had receipts, surveillance footage, witnesses, proof he was hundreds of miles away at the exact time Kristil was killed. The man everyone feared couldn't have done it. And that's when the digital evidence arrived. Phone records, Wi-Fi connections, burner phone purchases, email metadata. Slowly, a new picture formed. The messages didn't come from another state. They didn't come from a moving target. They came from one place. Don Krug's workplace. The burner phone used to stalk Kristil had been purchased using a gift card traced back to him. The threatening photo of Dan at work, the one meant to prove someone else was watching, was actually a selfie, taken with a timer. Even the final text Kristil sent that morning wasn't sent by her at all. It had been scheduled in advance. A message designed to manufacture an alibi. Investigators realized something far more disturbing than a random stalker had been hiding in plain sight. Dan hadn't just killed his wife. He had spent months creating an alternate reality, a fictional enemy, a campaign of fear meant to isolate Kristil, manipulate her emotionally, and push her toward breaking point. When police finally arrested him, he was on his way to his daughter's ballet performance.com, polite, cooperative, still performing the role. He had practiced so carefully. As the case unfolded, more women came forward. One ex-girlfriend described years-old harassment that mirrored Kristil's experience almost perfectly. Anonymous messages, distorted voices, emotional manipulation, fear that never fully disappeared. A pattern that had existed long before Kristil ever entered his life. In court, Dan pleaded not guilty. He smiled. He made eye contact with family members as if expecting sympathy. But the evidence told a different story. The man who claimed to be protecting his family had been the danger all along. The jury didn't hesitate. Don Krug was found guilty of first-degree murder, stalking, and criminal impersonation. Sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Kristil never lived to see the truth exposed, but her careful documentation, her instincts, and her refusal to stay silent built the case that ultimately revealed who the real monster was. Even in death, she made sure the truth couldn't be buried. Her children now live, surrounded by family, safe, loved, protected in the way she always fought for. And while the pain never disappears, her story stands as a chilling reminder that evil doesn't always come from strangers in the dark. Sometimes it wears a wedding ring, sometimes it helps tuck the kids into bed, and sometimes it convinces the whole world it's the victim.